Hey guys, today I'm back with another review, and today it's going to be on the FreeFall SV Base Control Plus mousepad. This pad was sent out by FreeFall for review purposes, but like always, that doesn't affect anything I do say in these reviews. Starting off with the specs of the pad, it only comes in one size, and it's going to be this 450 by 450 millimeter size, and the thickness of the pad is 3 millimeters. The price of this pad is $35, which I think for what you're getting is a pretty decent price. On first glance, many people are going to think this is just another mouse pad with a blue color to it, but until you actually see the base of this mouse pad, that's when it becomes a very kind of unique and special mouse pad. Like I said before, the thing that makes this pad so special and unique is going to be this actual base. It is a silicone based material, and it is something we've really never seen on a mousepad before. As for the actual stickiness and the grippiness of the actual base, on my desk in particular, it's not the best, but your mileage may vary a ton. It really depends on what kind of desk you actually have. My desk does have a little bit of grain to it, so I think on a flatter surface, this base will stick to your desk a lot better than mine. As for stitching of the pad, I do think it's done pretty well, especially for it being hand stitched. They're not using any machining or anything for the actual stitching. It is slightly inconsistent. They do mention that it's supposed to be below the surface, but in certain spots on this mouse pad, it is above the surface or level to the surface or just in between that. So in terms of that, the stitching is done pretty well, except for one spot, and that's going to be in the top left hand corner. So the top left is going to be the weakest point when it comes to stitching, and I do believe this is where they start and stop the actual stitching. So I do believe that does cause a point of failure. It does vary a little bit, but as long as you don't really touch it or pick at it, it's probably just going to stay the same like this for probably as long as you use the pad. Even though this is a cloth surface, you're probably going to think that it's going to have a little bit of plushiness to it, something like a mid Saturn or a mid Artisan, but this feels pretty much like a sky pad when it comes to the actual hardness, and that's all going to be because of this SV base. This is pretty much a hard control pad. Now, I do have a lot of mixed opinions about this whole base. I do think the whole concept and the technology behind it is pretty cool, but I do think having a surface this hard combined with a surface texture that is pretty rough just doesn't make for a really great experience, for me personally at least. So if you're someone that really likes digging into their mousepad to gain a little bit more control, that's pretty much going to be impossible on this mousepad. But while I do think that's a bad thing, I also do think that's a good thing, since you are going to be more consistent on this pad compared to a pad that is going to be an X-Off, just because you don't have to really worry about teaching yourself not to dig into the mousepad and losing a little bit of inconsistency with that. As for the actual surface, FreeFall do label this pad as a control pad, but I do think this does lean closer to something like a Venus Pro or something just a tiny bit faster than a Saturn Pro. The initial frictions are going to be pretty low for a control pad, so you are going to have a lot of room for actual micro adjustments and all that. And then your actual like dynamic friction and your stopping power is also going to be kind of decently low when you're comparing this to something like a Saturn Pro. I do think this pad is great for a variety of games such as Battlefield, Call of Duty, and even games like Apex or Valorant. This is just a great balance of pretty much everything. You are getting that control-like feel to it, and you are getting enough speed for games like Apex and Call of Duty. Now personally, I do think this mousepad is a good buy for the right person. If you do have really sensitive skin, then will probably not be the pad for you, since you are combining a pretty harsh surface with a pretty hard base. You are getting a really rough kind of abrasive surface that is kind of comparable to the Heian when it comes to just how coarse this surface is. I also don't really recommend this pad if you are someone that digs into their pad a lot. I am someone that decently does dig into their pad a lot, and I did, I guess, find some inconsistencies when I was playing on this pad, kind of trying to dig into it. That kind of just messed up my aim. But in general, if you are looking for a hard control pad that is relatively on the budget side of things, and you're also looking for something that's innovative, and maybe you just like the color, then this will be a great buy for you. As for my rating of this pad, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10, and that's gonna be for a couple of reasons. The price point is pretty decent for this price, coming in at $35. I do think it's pretty fair. And then the actual innovation of the base I do like to see. I do like seeing companies actually doing something unique and different for once. And then the actual quality of the pad is pretty decent. I'm just knocking off 3 points just because I do wish they allowed us to have different base options, such as a X-Soft or a soft. And then I also like a slightly softer, less harsh surface. If they could change those two things, then this would be a pad I could actually main and probably recommend. Anyways, that's all from me. If you guys did enjoy this video, a like and sub would be much appreciated. But see you all in the next one.